Hello. If you're new here, I'm Ashley. Welcome to the A-List. And if you're not new, A-listers, I'm so sorry. It's been like 4 years since I stepped away from the influencer industry, pivoted out of it to launch my corporate career, but I'm back and I'm ready to tell you everything. There's a lot. So I have notes because I had a lot to write down. So let's jump right in. Okay, to make sure we're all on the same page, we gotta start from the tippy top. I'll make this quick. I'm best known for my blog series, As Told by Ashley. It documented my college journey and post-grad life. I've also posted makeup tutorials, hair tutorials, makeup reviews, and hair reviews. Chit Chat Get Ready With Me's, hair makeup outfit Get Ready With Me videos, and routine videos. I graduated from TWU with a degree in business administration with a concentration in marketing, and post-grad I moved back home to save money. Once I met that savings goal, I moved to Dallas and I've been here ever since. Now that the brief recap is out of the way, let's address the elephant in the room, which is why I left in the first place. If you remember, I was a brand ambassador for Eunice Hair, and that was my first long-term partnership. Getting a long-term partnership meant that you had to post deliverables, so YouTube videos, Instagram posts, and then you would get paid on like a set day every month. So Eunice Hair was a 4-figure a month partnership. Interestingly enough, another company reached out to me, and it was at the end of 2019. They offered me 5 figures a month to be their brand ambassador. And I had a really good working relationship with Eunice Hair. They always gave me the option to walk away from our contract or renew it. So obviously I took the 5-figure a month deal and amicably walked away from my Eunice Hair contract. But the only thing about the other deal that the company offered me, the 5-figure a month deal, was that it was set to start in March of 2020. So we all know what was happening at that time. I lost that contract simply because there was so much uncertainty. The global pandemic had just started. We didn't know what was going on, and that was when we were going into quarantine. So they were saying, like, let's see if being a brand ambassador is a business need of ours, and since we were dealing with the global pandemic, it ended up not being a business need for them. But for years I was basing my entire budget on my 4-figure a month brand ambassador deal, and that partnership, since it was long term, covered all of my bills. So anything that I got from Google AdSense, for example, or anything that I got from other brand deals, as long as they didn't compete, I got to just do whatever I wanted to do with that money. And for the most part I saved it, but obviously I reconfigured my budget ahead of that 5-figure a month partnership. I didn't really panic at first because brand deals, I think they came to a screeching halt for a minute there because brands didn't want to seem insensitive, and everybody was, you know, protesting and saying to open your purse and to donate. So I lived off my savings. I had plenty of money in my savings account, and then I had my credit card just in case I needed to charge it for anything. But I lived off my savings for the majority of 2020. But fortunately, I was signed to an agency by my talent manager, and by the time we started working together and our brand deals started really picking up steam, I'd completely like depleted my savings at that point, and I started relying on my credit card. And then I was living like brand deal to brand deal, or like invoice to invoice. And by the end of 2021, I was in $25,000 worth of credit card debt. I completely maxed out my credit card, and since I was living invoice to invoice, I would put money in my savings account, try to pay the minimum balance on my credit card to just like get it down as much as I could. But let's say I was waiting for a brand deal payment or an invoice and it was kind of late, but there was a bill due, I would go back into my savings and transfer the money to my checking account so I could pay that bill. Or I would charge my credit card, and then I would have to just do the cycle over and over and over and over again. And I always had enough for my bills. I've always paid my bills first. That is my top priority, but having money for everything else was kind of up in the air. And I distinctly remember brand deals slowing down for me, and sometimes brand deals have like a slower season. So I was focusing on Instagram and TikTok, and I was posting short form content. This is end of 2021 I'm talking about. I was stuck at 80,000 followers on Instagram for like 3 years, I think, and I worked with Atia and the content breakdown to like apply a strategy using Instagram Reels to boost my follower growth. And in 3 months, or less than 3 months, I surpassed 100,000 followers on Instagram. It was like the most exciting thing I think I'd experienced when it comes to like social outside of growing on YouTube. But when I was out celebrating with my friends, my phone vibrated. I checked my phone and it was a notification from my bank. So I opened up my banking app, turned the brightness down, all the way down, if you know, you know. And lo and behold, my checking account was overdrawn $600 and I didn't have enough money in my savings account to cover it because I was waiting on an invoice to be paid out. And then jumping ahead just a little bit into 2022, when I pulled everything together for tax season, my former CPA didn't file the proper paperwork that he said he was going to file, and it cost me $36,000. I'd maxed out my credit card and I owed the credit card company $25,000. I owed the IRS $36,000, and I'd completely depleted my savings, and I was not saving for retirement because how could I? And I also got health insurance from the marketplace and it sucked. And that's when it hit me. I felt like I content created my way into a situation that I could not content create my way out of. And I feel like there weren't as many yappers on YouTube and TikTok, and vulnerability was kind of frowned upon. I didn't want to talk about it, so I just did something about it. So the beginning of 2022 is when I went like radio silent on social, and I hired a career strategist. I optimized my resume. I applied for corporate marketing roles that I felt like I was aligned with, reached out to my network for some referrals, and then when I landed interviews, I interview prepped for hours at a time. And in less than 6 months, I landed my senior community management role in finance aligned to the marketing team. And I know I don't talk about my job much. Actually, I don't think I talk about my job at all. Okay, well, I was brought on the team to launch a women-focused investing community on social, leading end-to-end strategy. And corporate has completely changed my life. It's given me financial stability. I feel like I've been able to plan financially for the first time, and I couldn't do that as an influencer because it was feast or famine. You only eat what you kill, and everything was so uncertain and kind of unstable and unpredictable. But my corporate salary has allowed me to pay off all of my debt. So I have a $0 balance on the credit card I maxed out, and I only had one credit card at that time. And I'm in good standing with the IRS. So I paid off all of that money. I've been able to completely rebuild my savings account and meet my savings goal. I bought my first luxury car. I lived in a high rise in downtown, and then the return to office mandate increased. So I moved to a 3-bedroom rental home with a 2-car garage. I just wanted to see what homeownership might look like, and well, I didn't like it, but I'm glad I did it. And as a full-time influencer, I wasn't saving for retirement, and having been in the financial industry for the last few years, you know, you may ask yourself like, what retirement? But nevertheless, I wasn't saving for it, and now corporate has changed that. Oh my gosh, and I have amazing health insurance. So much has changed for the better. I found a therapist that specializes in parts work, and with insurance, the sessions are so affordable. I'm able to speak with my therapist on a very consistent basis, which has been really helpful for me. I went to the eye doctor. I hadn't done that in a long time. I took my eye test and I was squinting. The eye doctor noticed and told me that I shouldn't have to squint to see clearly. So now I have to wear prescription lenses. I have to wear them when I'm driving, for sure. Non-negotiable. My eye doctor told me to keep a pair of my prescription lenses in my car for night driving. But yeah, I had no idea I needed glasses. And like when I put my glasses on, I couldn't believe people see like that for free. It's really clear. And most importantly, I went to my PCP for an ADHD evaluation. And that's when I got a formal diagnosis and medication for ADHD. And it's really changed how I function and how I feel. Actually, when I took my first dose of ADHD medication, I like worked from home that day, and I was so productive and laser focused. I made dinner. I did a closing shift clean. I took a shower, brushed my teeth, washed my face. I got in the bed at a reasonable time. I think it was like 9 or 9:30. And once I'd gotten into the bed, I just started sobbing because of course people thought I was lazy and unmotivated, and people thought I didn't try hard enough, and I didn't want it bad enough. But I was unmedicated and I had no idea. I thought something was off, but I didn't know what it was. But once I took my medication, it made me realize some people have normal brains that just function like that. The way I function when I'm medicated is the way people just function, and that's how they navigate day to day. So I've had a lot of grief that I've had to really deal with and process, because past versions of myself didn't really deserve to be talked about in the way that I was talked about, because I didn't know what was going on. So honestly, I was sad about that for quite a while, because I felt a lot of empathy for the past versions of myself, but I also wondered what I could have accomplished if I'd gotten this diagnosis and medication sooner. But I think one of the most valuable things is professional growth. Like, I work alongside brilliant peers and senior leaders, like literal Harvard and Yale graduates. I'm able to set up coffee chats and pick their brain, and it's been really insightful and very helpful for me. I've learned new systems and processes and ways of thinking about and approaching marketing at scale. I use corporate jargon now. I've traveled for work and experienced new cities and states, discussing T&E. It's like all new for me. And I've like been to restaurants by myself, exploring a new city or, you know, a different state. And people have sparked up a conversation with me because I was sitting at the bar and I let them know that I'm not from there. And they asked me what I'm doing in town. And I've been able to say, oh, I'm here on business. And I built something really meaningful that's bigger than me. And I'm contributing to like a broader purpose. And it feels really good. And I've been able to advocate for Black, Indigenous people of color that we partner with. I've also been able to refer people. Oh my gosh, wait, you know what? The most important thing to me is that corporate has helped me deal with like really big emotions that I struggled with as a full-time influencer. I can honestly admit, when I saw like PR, brand deals, brand trips, even like follower count and view count, it would make me really, really jealous. The influencer industry is just a gray area. Like, there's nobody who is like me. So I have nobody to actually measure myself up to. Everyone is different. And if you try to measure me up to this person or that person, they don't live here, or they have children, or they're married, or they're engaged, or they're a homeowner, or anything. So since everything was so up in the air, the influencer industry was literally like the wild, wild west. Once I pivoted into corporate, I was immediately given an org chart. So I knew exactly what everyone did, what their job title was. I was able to set up coffee chats and one-on-ones and have discussions with people about what it is that they do, what I would come to them for, what I could help them with. And that really helped me because I felt like it was so black and white that it was so easy for me to understand. And even someone climbing the corporate ladder has a reason behind it. So I've literally never, not one time, felt even an ounce of jealousy with my corporate job, whereas I was constantly comparing myself and I was constantly feeling jealousy as a full-time influencer. My validation came from views and virality, and that's what I was chasing. But in corporate, you get a salary, so you know exactly how much you're making, and I'm not concerned about what everyone else is making because I'm extremely content with what I'm making. And your performance reviews just provide feedback. It's not a personal attack on you. And they're talking about things that you can implement so that you can meet your quarterly and yearly goals. It's taken me a while to get used to the fact that performance reviews are not a personal attack, that I don't have to work and operate on the defense. I have no idea if anyone has ever gossiped about me because they never let it get back to me. Corporate has really shown me, because of HR obviously, that when people have a lot at stake, they're not going to blow it talking about you. Oh my gosh. And you can be as boring as you want. I have colleagues that run marathons, that hike, that bike, that take photographs, that make sourdough bread from scratch, that read, that write children's books. If you can think about any hobby, you name it, they do it. So many people run marathons at work that I considered running a marathon just because. But yeah, I've been able to see the world through all four of my eyes instead of through a camera lens or an editing software, and being able to live in real time for as long as I have has been so healing. I really needed this time and corporate gave it to me. I have literally never been happier. And no, corporate isn't perfect, but nothing is perfect. And I don't even think the grass is greener over here. I just think it's different grass. I have dealt with corporate politics, but I figured I would really like corporate. What I wasn't prepared for was the fact that I actually love corporate. The structure, the stability, the collaboration, the projects I work on. I love my job, which is why I was absolutely devastated last year when I was laid off. There was a restructure and my role was impacted, and restructures happen. Companies make decisions and the business is the #1 priority. Thankfully, it wasn't personal or based on my performance. At that time, I think I'd actually just gotten like a really positive quarterly performance review. But it was my first layoff and I have never experienced anything like this before. And I didn't know how to process career grief because I've never really felt it to this extent. As a full-time influencer, I did deal with career grief, but I just felt like everything was all my fault because my brand was my personal brand. But here, the powers that be, the system, made this decision for me. If it were up to me, I wouldn't have quit my job. I would still be working there. I wanted to grow on my team. If that wasn't possible, I wanted to work on other lines of business. You know, I didn't think that I was layoff proof. Layoffs are happening everywhere. Unfortunately, I worked for an amazing company, so I got a very generous severance package, which I definitely needed because I was completely frozen. My severance package has allowed me to just stop for a little while. I had trouble sleeping, I had trouble eating. I withdrew from everyone because I was so embarrassed and I was so ashamed to admit that I was laid off. And it was so bad that I waited months to tell my dad and my friends. I literally have been dealing with this alone. I still have a lot of positive things to say about corporate, and this isn't the end of my corporate career. And I definitely didn't think that I was going to have a linear corporate career where I just got this role and I climbed the corporate ladder and I retired at whatever the retirement age is and I just work at the same company and I never job hop or anything. But I definitely, like I said, wanted to stay there a lot longer because I felt like I had so much more to learn, and I genuinely loved my job, and I would do it 10 times over even if it had the same outcome. Ultimately, I was terrified to come back without a major accomplishment, without a new job or a promotion or a house or some fancier car. I wanted some major accomplishment so I could prove that this 4-year break was worth it after all. The longer that I put off coming back, the harder it was to come back. I let the shame get the best of me. I let the embarrassment get the best of me, and I fell into a perfectionist trap where I just wanted everything to be perfect before I came back, but nothing's perfect. Nothing's ever perfect. And I even put off this video because this is the first time that I'm admitting publicly that I was laid off. I've made life a little difficult for myself processing all of this alone for so long, and by the time I had told everyone else, you know, everyone sprung into action and was extremely supportive. Of course, my dad has been extremely supportive, extremely helpful, and all of my friends have really rallied around me, which I genuinely appreciate. Since I've been applying for jobs every single day, I have noticed that the timeline in which companies get back to you is a lot longer. The interview process is a lot more rigorous, and rejection emails are kind of the new normal. And I was talking to my dad about it, and he kept telling me, Ash, you cannot just apply for jobs day in and day out, day in and day out. You're going to drive yourself crazy. You have to do something else. You have to do something right now that gives you a sense of purpose. And I dusted off my mic and my camera and my lights and my SD cards, and this is the second time that I filmed this video because the first time I had to scrap the footage because it was so bad. But that's the thing, like, I've gotten so rusty at a creative hobby that I absolutely fell in love with and I guess kind of accidentally monetized. I used to post for virality and views and validation, but this time I'm taking an intentional and strategic approach, and I'm posting for visibility. I finally get to create organic content. I finally have the time for it, and I'm not going to bog you down with brand deal after brand deal after paid partnership after paid partnership after paid ad after paid ad after sponsor post after sponsor post. This isn't a money grab, and it's not an attempt to be a full-time influencer again. And in this industry, you have to be bold and creative, so why not come back? Because I have quietly been dealing with this. I have been sending out application after application. I've been getting rejection after rejection, and y'all, that hasn't gotten me anywhere. So I had to stop being embarrassed. I had to stop being ashamed. I had to stop feeling disappointment. I just had to stop, and I just have to post. But I also want to make myself really clear. This is not my way of trying to land a new job only to disappear again. Full-time employment is the goal, and content creation will exist alongside corporate but never instead of it. Because I've learned, and unfortunately it was the hard way, when my bills, my savings, my health insurance, and my retirement aren't tied to content but the company I work for, everybody wins. And I actually saw someone on TikTok use the term ambitious creator. I don't know if I'm defining this correctly, but in my head, I view myself as an ambitious creator, and my interpretation of it is ambitious corporate professional full-time and a creative part-time. And I want to establish a posting cadence that I can maintain once I get my new corporate job. So that's my life. I feel so relieved, like there's a weight off my shoulders. I want to answer a quick question that I think you're going to ask. I think you're going to ask how Daddy-O is doing, because you haven't seen him in a while, we haven't traveled in a while, and I haven't vlogged in a while. Daddy-O is doing very, very well. As you may or may not know, he retired at 49, so he's obviously still enjoying his retirement. He has a lot of time on his hands, but he has been kept very busy lately because he has 3 doggos. I call them Jodeci. He has Casey and Jojo, and I renamed the baby girl Dior. So I call her J'adore Dior because it's what, French? I call them Jodeci because it's Jojo, Dior, and Casey. Oh my god, and then I have some sad news. My dad actually told me this recently, and when he told me, I teared up. I don't know if you all remember, when I moved back home, we had a dog named Pebbles. Pebbles is not dead. My dad ended up rehoming Pebbles because with his retirement at that time, he wanted to just have a little bit more freedom and not have that ball and chain feeling like he was like stuck in the house constantly, or if he wanted to go anywhere for any like long period of time, he didn't want to have to figure out where to board her, or, you know, he could always drop Pebbles off with me, but he didn't always want to go out of his way to do that. I say all that to say, my dad ended up rehoming Pebbles. She is with a family that absolutely loves and adores her, but I think she is up there in age. She's definitely in the double digits. I have to ask my dad to be sure. I want to say she's like 11 or 12, and she's a Shih Tzu. So she has gone blind. That is the update about Pebbles. But that is it. This isn't the last time that we will be seeing each other. Oh, I was also thinking about creating a separate video talking about the millennial career crisis and talking about the pros and cons of corporate versus content creation. So if that's something that you're interested in, let me know in the comment section below. I want to do it kind of like an internet essay, and pull some clips that I've seen on social. If you have any video requests, definitely let me know. I need to go drink this water, but I will talk to you next Sunday. Stay beautiful. I love you.